Madam Mayor, it is 9:05 and we are live.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Friday, June 9th, 2023 pre-agenda workshop meeting. Can you call the roll, please?
Sorry, I muted myself. Mayor Betty Resch.
Here.
Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy.
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Maliga.
Present.
Commissioner Kimberly Stokes.
Here.
Commissioner Reynaldo Diaz.
Here.
You sound so enthusiastic, Ronaldo. Good morning. And I see Carmen is here and Jamie is here and Glenn is here. Thank you so much. Okay, it's our pre-agenda meeting. We got an hour. Does anyone let's try to equally spare the time if we can. Does anyone have any burning thing that they want to bring up to start with? Okay, I don't hear anything. That's interesting.
I'll jump in with one. I don't know if it's burning, but the pun is intended, I guess. I just got back from being in the Midwest and we drove across part of it. And one of the things I said to one of my people I grew up with out there, I said, I remember it was humid here in the summer, but I don't remember it being this hazy. And eventually it dawned on us, this is the wildfires. And I just happened to read a few minutes ago, that the science is unequivocal that global warming significantly increases the chances of severe wildfires and heat waves. Obviously, Lake Worth Beach on its own is not going to solve climate change or global warming, but all sorts of places working together, each doing something, is exactly what's needed. So I'd say, we certainly should put out a press release of some of the things we've done with our percentage of utility scale solar. We are making some progress on that, and it's worth advertising that we do that because it's a real forward accomplishment that we've made. So I'd encourage us to work with staff. I'd be happy to help on that and get that word out.
I've actually got something in
we started.
Yeah, I've got an interview next week scheduled to do just about that stuff. So thank you. It's a good idea. Yeah, in New York, you can barely see the buildings. The smoke is so horrible. So it's terrible. I'm flying into Toronto next Thursday, so it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to go, whether they're done by then or not. Okay, thank you, Mr. McVoy. Anybody else? We have a quiet group this morning. All right, I'll start. Mr. McVoy and I were both at the tree board meeting last night, and I have to tell you, this is just a really prime example of what Facebook and misinformation and rumors and speculation can do. Our staff has been accused of going into people's backyards. Our staff and the tree board have been accused of using drones. There's a couple of people that are very fired up about that, which actually isn't true. The city does not go in where they're not allowed to go in. So it was an interesting evening. It was a little volatile, but I think things got worked out. The tree board was actually finally able to get down to their business, and they're talking about getting us as it actually turns out it's quite easy to be a tree city. So we're gonna Mr. McGrew is gonna work on that, and we had some very good suggestions from some citizens about our pamphlets not using paper but using along those same lines, Chris. Going digital with that, so with our pamphlets and stuff, having QR codes. One thing I brought this up the other day at the meeting, and there's two things that I want to just touch on. The first thing is I want to look at I'm going to take a look at the ordinance that we did a couple of years ago about the boards. I think it might have been a mistake not to have not to have terms on the boards, to have it be ongoing until somebody makes a change, because that, as I look at it, it really sort of leaves the boards vulnerable in some sense about, I don't like what you're doing, so I'm going to get you off the board. So I would like to, have your thoughts about just revisiting that one issue.
I seem to
Anybody?
remember that there was a specific reason. We should get, Glenn may remember also, but I seem to remember Christie mentioning something, that there was a reason to make it at will, essentially, and that people serve until somebody decides otherwise, or they
Yeah,
leave.
no, that's what I said.
Most people won't serve indefinitely. It's a fair amount of work on whatever board it is. And at some point you say, I got other things to do. I think it's less of a concern. I know I too heard, and I've heard it elsewhere, that, oh my gosh, this gives people unlimited powers and they'll wield these powers evilly for, eons to come. I would take all that with a grain of salt.
Well, that's not what I'm basing it on. I just think it might have been, we were very enthusiastic when we started, the boards, we had some issues with boards. All I'm saying is I think I would like to take a look at what we did and perhaps, revisit that issue, because I think, I just think it's something that we can take a look at.
I think that that's a good idea, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, nobody serves indefinitely at this point in the world. So,
But
yeah,
if I remember correctly, I thought we had talked about going to like 1 year, like we were trying to reduce, like, okay, some of these boards have longer terms than we do. Like there were 4 years. So we get elected, and then if we want to change the direction of the board or anything, we have to sit there and wait 3 years for the terms to come up. So I think that was the impetus. And I thought we talked originally about shortening the terms, but then I think it was like, do we really want to make them have to go through this every single year? But so there may be something to look into there. I also think that if I were serving on a board, I might want to end date, because like, if I want to do it, I'm like, I committed to this thing, but what did I commit to? I would at least hope that somebody that signs up would be able to fulfill it for a year. But then I do wonder if somebody, when we relook at this stuff, if they're already on the board and they're reapplying, is there a more streamlined process than having the whole interview and everything else, or like ways to make things easier for us and everybody else? So those are my thoughts.
I agree with you. Yeah. So we're okay. So I've got 3 of us want to take a look at it. Ronaldo?
So I think it's important to distinguish terms and term limits. So are you saying like revisit on terms, which I think is a good idea. I wouldn't want to necessarily limit if we want to have that conversation.
No, it's not term limits. It's terms. Yeah,
I know.
Terms.
I'm just bringing that up because I think it'd be important to kind of know if we have this data, like to know, how long people are serving on our boards. Because there are definitely some where I think it's going to be hard to get people to add, just basing it on last year, like, the
absolutely
board, for example.
Yeah.
And when we get somebody who loves running that and wants to do that, for a really long time, we definitely want to appreciate that. But we certainly need the opportunity to revisit, and terms are going to give us that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's not it's hard to get people to join boards. I mean, so we're not saying get rid of it, but just not have it be indefinite. So, all right, we'll Glenn, if you'd put that on your list of stuff for us to talk about, I'd appreciate it.
Will do.
Thank you. Next, it's along the same lines. We have openings on boards. There was some talk, and I don't know where it went. Oh, Sarah, I see your hand is up. I'm sorry. You're muted, Sarah.
Hang on, I'll come back to you.
Okay. We have board openings. Aren't we due to have board interviews and, put out that we're looking for, I know that we have some applications that people have been sending in. I'm quite sure we do.
Madam,
I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, I was going to reply to what you're asking. So I did check with our team to find available dates on you all's calendars that everyone is available. As last time we had our meetings had the interviews on a Saturday. I have 2 Saturday dates to throw up for you all to consider, July 22nd and July 29th. So once we secure that date, we'll start the process of advertising for interviews.
Let me get my calendar. Can anybody check their calendars?
My
Why?
apologies, Mayor, whenever you have a minute.
I'm free for either one of those.
Okay,
Again,
I think it was the 22nd and 29th, I
Ninth.
believe.
correct.
what month? Of July or June?
July.
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 And if everybody's available, I'd prefer the later date just for advertising and
Right.
organizing
Yes.
everything.
The 22nd does not work for me, so I also prefer the later date.
Okay,
The 29th is
Sounds like-
better.
I think that sounds good.
The 29th is not good for me. I'm out of town that weekend. Hang on a
Um,
minute. Hang on, let me, if I can get, I'll just have, if we're not done by 2 o'clock, I have to leave.
okay. I think last time we completed around 1, 2 o'clock, so if we're on
4
the same.
o'clock. 4 o'clock,
well-
Madam City Manager.
yeah,
It was
wasn't,
4 o'clock? Really?
it's good to have a city clerk to keep us
Yes,
on
ma'am.
track. Well, how about August 5th?
Wow, August 5th, August 5th, okay.
I don't know that it matters, but I'll be out of town.
I think, well, Shayla maybe could take over for you, yeah?
She
Well,
could.
what, Sarah?
August 5th is good for me.
I can't hear you.
She said it was. okay.
August 5th was good for her.
Oh, okay, good.
The
Anybody else?
29th, the 29th works for me and the 5th as well.
Okay, good.
Okay,
The
Rhonda?
5th does not work. The 5th does not work for me.
oh, wow. These are our dilemmas.
Yeah,
Well,
And-
just keep it on the 29th. But if I have to leave, I excuse myself. It's on the record that I've
Yeah, but
made
we have to
the-
take a vote, and if you're not there for the vote,
It's fine. I mean, it's majority.
Madam Mayor, the
yeah,
last time there was no vote on the Saturday. You took some time to reflect. and then
workshop.
We had a special meeting during which the appointments were made, and we can certainly do that
That's true.
again.
all right, or put it on the second meeting in August for the vote, or have a special meeting. So the
Do
29th,
do we know
What?
how many openings there are? Because there were a lot of openings the last time, which is why I think it was so long. But are there as many vacancies that we're filling this time, or?
well, we'll have to take a look.
Well, it
Yeah.
could, because there
They're
are.
not, but we do
Well,
have a
there-
whole new board.
That's right, a whole
Yeah.
new
We have the
board.
Business Advisory Board.
Well, Sarah, I mean, if you're willing to do it on the 29th, and just we'll try to talk fast. Otherwise,
Yep.
we're going into
That's fine.
August.
That's fine with me.
All right, so we're
Okay.
starting at what time?
I think last time we started at 9 or 10, didn't we?
We
Mhm.
started at 10,
That's good.
but we did break for lunch, so
Well, I don't know that
Right.
we need to break for lunch.
maybe we start at
I'd start at
9
9. Yeah,
and do
exactly.
just like a 20-minute break
I
for
think that's
everybody.
reasonable. It's fine
Alright.
with me. Start earlier. That way Sarah can be there for more of it, if not all of it, and we get done earlier.
I appreciate you guys understanding. Thank you.
Awesome.
29th.
Did we hear from Commissioner Diaz? Commissioner Diaz, are you okay with that?
Yeah, 29th works mostly because I'm gonna just say middle of August, something might be happening that might require me to respond quickly. So
Just
yeah,
a little
29th
something, huh?
Well, you're not giving birth. No, yeah, and that's the 17th, August 17th is your date, Ronaldo?
Well, the 25th is the technical date, but he's
You never
measuring
know.
pretty
Oh,
big,
no.
so yeah.
I'm told babies don't listen to that very often.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
The start of many rebellious acts on their part. Okay, all right, so the 29th at 9 o'clock, that's fine.
Awesome. We'll get that rolling.
Okay, great. Good, glad to hear that. The other thing I want to bring up, I really want us to revisit, we had the workshop on the artificial turf. I've been doing a little research on artificial turf. And there have been some advancements in it. And I really want to revisit. I've told people, I've made it very clear, I would never consider, front lawn artificial turf. I just think that's not what the city looks like. But I'm asking to revisit the backyard artificial turf stuff. I think that some of our residents brought up some very good points. We're not perfect. But I think that just saying, no, you can't have it. I would look at some sort of, percentage limit on it, not entire lawn artificial turf, but there is some use for it. And I think that some of our residents want to use it in their backyards. And I don't know that we have to be so ideological to say, no, you can't do that when we're not perfect in other ways. Sarah? I see your hands up. Is she back? No, okay.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
here.
wanna-
I'm here. My concern is that, we looked at this panhandling ordinance and we were supposed to bring something back and it's been months and I personally have not seen anything come back on it. And I would like to make this a priority.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna
Did you say-
revisit it as well.
Did she say panhandling ordinance?
No,
Yes,
no.
yes.
Oh, I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear well.
Yeah, you're a little
No,
muffled, Sarah.
yeah.
It's hard to hear you.
Well, I told you guys I was working, so I'm sorry.
No,
are you
that's
there?
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So no, we lifted the panhandling ordinance and we lifted it and we
Oh,
were
she just
promised
said.
that something else would come back and nothing else has come back for us to review.
I don't know what we're able, what did you have in mind? You're changing the subject. I'm talking about the lawn right now.
I understand you called on me when I had my hand raised from earlier, that's all.
Oh, okay. Our hands are really tied in terms of the panhandling, so I don't know what else. Glenn?
We did bring back that resolution that kind of wrapped up all the different laws that impact, and the commission adopted that. So that I thought was the next step that you wanted. If there's
Yeah.
something else, but in terms of the case law, it hasn't really changed. It's still very difficult to adopt and support those kind of ordinances.
We did do
There's
the
no-
resolution that said that we're gonna enforce the existing laws of the county and the state and all.
Right.
There's nothing that we can do in regards to keeping people from panhandling within 15, 20 feet of businesses' property lines or the downtown patios. There's got to be some kind of protection that we can give.
Well, that would be nice. I don't think we can. I think they can be ordered off of private property, but not on public property. I think that was made very clear. Chris?
Yeah. Thank you. On the artificial turf, I think it was important to note that at the tree board meeting last night, our arborist, our landscape person, David McGrew, did emphasize that the information on artificial turf was in fact facts. It was not opinions. And he was, I believe, referring to the documents from University of Florida on that. So if you want to revisit the possibility of allowing artificial turf, I'd say fine, but accompany that by a very strong commitment of our city to trees, that we
Strong commitment.
have been very lax. We do not do very well on supporting trees here. We, empirically, you can look around and figure that out. And we really need to make that more of a priority for our city and provide whether it's the staff, the proper stuff for the tree board, somehow empirically make it work better. It has not been working for many years and it is still not working.
Well, tell me,
so-
could you be more specific?
When you look at different cities, some cities clearly support trees and you see it. You see a lot of trees.
In what way? I'm asking
And-
you what way? I'm asking you what, in what way? Be specific, you know.
They support it in terms of planting the trees, in terms of taking care of the trees, in terms of requiring better restrictions on how you take care of trees. There are a lot of different ways that you can support it. You know, specific things that we could do is make sure that anybody who does tree trimming has to be registered with the city, has to go through a program to make sure that they know what they're doing, or has to be certified already in one or another fashion. That's one easy one that could be done. That we look real carefully at our process of deciding when trees can come down, that and that we encourage growth of trees much more than we do. I mean, the difference between us and other South Florida cities even is dramatic. And it's not working at the level of the city, and it's definitely not working at the level of the tree board. As I mentioned at the meeting last night, I know of people who have served on the tree board and been extremely frustrated, and they give up after a while because there's been too much resistance, usually at the staff level.
Okay, well, I mean, you can't stop, you know, people are gonna call Bob the tree trimmer and have them come in over the weekend and trim their trees. I don't know what we can do about that. We do.
You can always do things. Will it be 100% effective? No, nothing that we do is 100% effective. But the argument that, well, we shouldn't do anything because it might not work.
I don't think we're not doing
buy.
anything. I think frankly, I think we have a fairly strong, I mean, we are protective when, you know, developers come in. I think we should ask for larger trees when new developments come in. I think that the trees that we require in our code, and I think we're taking a look at the landscape code as well. I think we should have bigger trees. So, you know, there was some trees way up on North Homeway, I think, and it was a new construction, it was an addition, and this whole row of gorgeous trees got knocked down. I didn't do the research to find out what was required. I mean, obviously there was a requirement to put in place, but I don't know what it was. But I've said this to Aaron already, that I think that our tree requirement is low. So
that's one piece. There is a trade-off. That's a technical thing of how well trees do at different sizes of planting. You don't want to go too big because that can also be a problem. I think we do reasonably well at the new developments. Could we make some improvements? Yeah, very likely. But I'm more concerned of what we do with our existing city, both public and private.
Well, I talked last night, you know, find some public places where we can plant some trees, and maybe we can get some people to help plant some trees on the public. So,
I have
okay, so
something, I
Kim?
have two comments. One about the trees where, you know, I feel like on the commission, it's been almost a year, we allocated money to have a tree program, a residential tree program to enhance our tree giveaways and try to expand into the neighborhoods and be more targeted. And right now, I've read and I've told the city manager this, the part of the Inflation Reduction Act, there is money out there for municipalities to be able to maintain those trees and help make sure that they are set up to live. But it's another area where we haven't had the time to like hear back from staff, like some proposals of how we can use this money. So I would like for us to be able to have staff spend time there. And with respect to the artificial turf, unless, you know, I don't want to keep revisiting old issues, because I think that also stops us from moving forward to other initiatives and things that we want to do. So unless there's some really new information coming from a very trusted, reliable source, you know, run that through the city manager's office by all of us, and then we can see if that new information warrants revisiting the topic. But if I'm not interested in revisiting this topic, if there's no
So you're in
real
favor of
new,
absolutely no, if somebody in their own little backyard can't put a 20 by 20 patch of artificial turf for their kids to play on, you're against that, right?
we've already had this discussion. I'm not going to have it again. If there's new information that people want to bring to us through the city manager's office, then I think we can
open that conversation up, but we already had an entire workshop on this. So without new information, I don't see why we would have another one.
Well, because I think I think that we are, part of our duty is to listen to what our constituents are asking for. And if it's not horrible, to listen to them. Ronaldo?
We did listen, and I think something that needs to be highlighted, it's not just trees. And I don't know if William's on, but I think our landscape code is good. Is there always room for improvement? Of course, but something that we can't really gloss over is, this is something that Florida legislature has put a lot of emphasis on. Florida friendly landscaping is not really, it's not just like an opinion or something. I mean, it's in statute, it's in chapter 373, where they put a lot of emphasis on protecting the use of Florida friendly landscaping. And I tend to agree. We had this conversation. There's a lot of research on it. I think William and Aaron gave a great presentation. Is there room to improve our landscape code? Yes, but I'm not sure it's exactly the avenue that we're hearing.
And
I think that we need to listen to our residents a little bit, and I don't think we're going to have a giant flood of artificial grass. There's a few people that want to do it, and I think we're not listening to our constituents. And that's all I'll say about it. I'm going to bring it up in public because I think that our people really need to understand that this commission is not listening to what they want for a limited amount of artificial turf in their backyard for the kids to play on, or their dogs to run on, or around their pool. I'm sorry. I think we're not serving our public. Mr. McVoy?
Yes, I beg to differ, and I think it's a little bit not correct to say we're not listening to our constituents. I do listen to our constituents, and they've been very clear. Listen to the best available science that is published. Listen to the Florida statutes, which is published. It says very clearly artificial turf is not a good solution. And I would agree with what Commissioner Stokes said, that we don't need to discuss this more unless somebody brings us new information. If IFAS decides that they've looked at something and there's something new that changes that and bring that to us, fine. But I don't see anybody who's done that. So we have the best available information. And I do listen to constituents, and they've been very clear. What I've heard is, no, don't do that. For good reason.
We're like an HOA. This is the one thing I feel like we're like an HOA. Sarah?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. I too would like to have the conversation. I've been on the record to state that I don't think it's really any of our concern what somebody does in their backyard, within reason. Obviously, if you can have cement around the pool and you can have bricks around the pool, I don't understand why we're limiting and we're saying, no, you can't talk about having artificial turf within reason. As long as they have the required ground coverage and required shrubbery and trees, I think we need to have a conversation. I think we need to go back to it.
Yeah, we're ignoring the fact, all right. Yeah, so apparently, there's not a majority to even consider it because they've made up their minds and that's it. So there you go. Okay. All right. Would anybody else have anything?
I'm just curious, do we allow people to have chickens in their backyard?
No.
Well, I think we ought to listen to reason. Many communities, much larger cities than us, do allow chickens. I think we should listen to reason. Why should we tell people what they can do or not do in their backyard?
Well, you seem to want to tell people what they can do or do not in the backyard. So that logic doesn't.
But you seem to be of the opinion that we should listen to constituents. If 5 constituents come to us and say that we want to allow chickens in the backyard, are we going to listen?
If there's some kind of reasonable way that we could,
yeah, you put in
I have nothing
requirements
against chickens, but if there's a reasonable way that serves the purpose reasonably, all right, that has also been discussed. So I guess we're not going to discuss that again because it's been discussed and decided on before us. So that
you just have to be careful with some of the arguments.
You can't have it both ways.
Okay, then I will bring some constituents that would like chickens, and And they will say a reasonable solution is we don't allow roosters, we do allow.
Oh, but you just
hens.
said that we visited that already and we're not going to visit
No, I did
artificial
not say
turf
that.
again.
I did
Well,
not
no,
say we
it's been,
visited.
that's the discussion. It's been discussed. You don't want to discuss it anymore. Chickens have been discussed. I'm not against chickens. Chickens have been discussed and voted on by a previous commission. So apparently it's been decided. So anything else anybody has? Any other?
I just want
comments?
to, I would just like to clarify two things because I think it's really unfortunate when we have conversations like this and it gets to this point. One thing is artificial turf has never been allowed in this city. So we're not the commission that came in and said, we're going to impose all these new. We are constantly caught in a situation where things haven't been enforced and it's starting to catch up to the city and we're stuck having to deal with it. And it's not something anybody here, I think, it is actively going out and trying to create new hurdles for people. We're just dealing with things that haven't been addressed for so long. So we're not imposing new restrictions. They were always there. And the second thing is, we as all five of us have had a whole workshop on artificial turf. So I would never say that workshops that the previous commission had should stop us from visiting or revisiting things. Like that's not equivalent. Like we should definitely be looking at things and visiting things that have happened that we don't agree with. But if we have already found time in our schedule and dedicated time to having workshops and discussing these things, that's where I'm just want to be careful about how we're spending our time and where we're putting our energy in the city. Because I know we all have things that we're hoping would move forward a little more quickly that haven't. So I don't want to get into this kind of false equivalency and this kind of like argumentative way of working together. I want us all to be able to work together because I think the majority of things that we want to see happen in the city, and we need to focus our energy there.
Madam Mayor?
Yep.
I do want to say, I do appreciate the revisiting and this discussion on the artificial turf in that staff has been making sure we were clear about the position of the commission because we have been getting a number of inquiries from the public as far as the 90-day hold on violations. And so certainly we need to move forward and making sure we communicate to the public where we are with that. So I appreciate it as it could be.
And that's one of the reasons I brought it up because I've been asked by a number of.
Right. So the staff will move forward in that direction in continuing our enforcement on artificial turf.
Well, I mean, then let's talk about that for a second. If staff can't see it from the backyard, the staff has been accused wrongly, apparently, of violating privacy, of, like looking over fences, the drone. I don't know if there's any truth to that. But I think that if we're going to, start doing that, then we need to really be very careful that people understand that we're not violating their privacy. We're not going into their backyards if they're not,
No, staff will enforce according to state law.
Okay,
and
thank you.
within our regulation and authority.
Okay, Sarah, I think you were first, then Ronaldo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we're going to have this conversation about enforcing things, then I would like us to start enforcing the fact that shopping carts are all over the city, and we're spending staff time to go pick them up, collect them, and we have an ordinance. So then we need to start enforcing that with the local businesses that aren't protecting the city from these shopping carts being all over the city. If we're going to start enforcing things that are on the books, then we need to be fair across the board. We can't just target one group of people.
Okay. Ronaldo?
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for bringing that up. I see shopping carts not as often as some other things, but they certainly pop up and they're really noticeable in the alleys. I just was going to point out, I really want to get us away from this notion of if it's in their backyard, we can't make rules on it, because that's not a good path to go down. I bring up the chickens issue because there are very valid reasons why we don't allow animal farms in an urban area. just like we have rules to not allow people have junkyards in their backyard. It's kind of in the same notion. And I bring up the state statute on that issue because, you know, chapter 373 is really clear on, you know, water is our most important asset, and the legislature spends, you know, a considerable amount of time. Some of us argue maybe not enough time in protecting our water resources. And you look at the situation of what's happening right now with Lake Okeechobee and the the level that it's at. And this summer, you know, between that and the conditions that drive that, this summer, it looks like it's inevitable that that water is going to be discharged towards us. And keep in mind that the endpoint of that discharge is Spillway Park, right? And, you know, years ago, it was covered in cyanobacteria, and that might happen again. That's a very dangerous thing to go down. And, you know, the state is really intent on trying to address that issue. And one of the ways that you address that issue is you address runoff pollution. And that's why, you know, Florida Friendly Landscapes exist. And that's why UF-IFAS has a considerable amount of literature out there saying that artificial turf is not great for water.
Well, it's not, I mean, on the other, I mean, just the other side of that, and I think we're moving on from that subject, but the other side of that is you don't need water to water artificial turf and the chemicals that people use.
But you
Matt-
do, just like staff
Yes.
presented, you do need water to maintain it and wash it and clean it. You do need detergents to clean it, because if you allow leaves and organic matter to fall on top of artificial turf, they're not going to allow it to decompose on top of their artificial turf. Just like if you had a concrete pad, you're going to sweep it and wash it and pressure wash it. There is a water use. What's different is that it diverts the water from going into, you know, the recharge, and it diverts it into our stormwater management drains. So there's
and
I think we've moved on. I think we've moved on from that.
yes, we have.
All right, so anything else people want to bring up?
I would like to bring up that we have been talking for quite a while collectively and at various situations of the idea of having some sort of coordinated beautification program for the city that involves code, that involves a lot of different departments and residents and businesses all working together to make the place more attractive. And I haven't yet seen very much movement yet on that. I think there's broad support for it. I'd like to see us really, you know, maybe see staff draft up what would the broad strokes of an overall beautification program look like. Bring that to us, you know, email it to us and say, hey, that looks pretty good. We give some feedback, and get that moving.
Well, yeah, I don't
thi-
disagree. And that was part of our whole pride in our city concept, you know, taking
Yeah, I
pride.
think it's
Yeah.
very, very similar, and I think it's very important, in my opinion, it's just an opinion, but that we have a clear overall program and we say, hey, this is different pieces that fit into that overall goal, that code is going after this, that, or the other, not just to harass residents, but because we have all agreed that we want the city to be more attractive, and here's a piece, and here's how we're doing it
I see-
on.
I
bulk
see Carmen's
pickup and-
hand up. I see Carmen's
Okay.
hand up. She might have something to add.
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we are working on that. I've met me and Lena have met with Healthier Lake Worth Beach, one of our partners, to assist us in being part of that program. We have reached other communities, sorry about that, reached out to other communities and what they're doing. We have drafted a mini grant program. So we're finalizing that draft for you to see, which the purpose of that would be to empower our active community groups to encourage and motivate them to engage in beautification programs within their areas. So we're working on ideas. We will be bringing something to you within the next month. But we're finalizing our pieces to share with you our concept.
And I think we can involve the
And-
neighborhood associations in that.
Yes, and code enforcement staff is also working on it because they're providing us data on some of the common issues that they see. So we'll know areas if we want to concentrate in our efforts and resources towards to improve on areas that are problem areas within our community. So
And
that has not fallen to the wayside. We are working on that now, and we will be presenting something to you soon.
Thank you.
And I think that's great. The only addition I would say is I think it's very important that before we get too far down into the individual pieces of it, working on a mini grant here, or working with this organization there, lay out, at least in a sketch form for the commission to see the overall umbrella so that people in the community can see, hey, if we're empowering neighborhood associations to be a little bit more looking at what's happening, it's not because we're setting up HOA vigilante groups. It's because we have this overall overreaching program effort to make the city better. I think it's very important to have that top part of it and then show how these individual pieces contribute to that, but that it's a coordinated effort and get buy-in from the community too.
Understood.
Okay. Anything else? We've got 15 minutes.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for bringing that up because it's obviously an issue that's dear to my heart, and most of the garbage that we pull out of the lagoon comes through our stormwater drains. But this is a conversation I've had with Carmen, I think multiple times, and I'm happy to see we're close to the end result. This is something that I think every city should do, and I envision this as like we'll get to a point eventually where maybe we could even have, say, like a trailer full of tools available for volunteer groups like Healthier Lake Worth Beach to go out and help people, right? Like if, code identifies a home that needs painting and that person's on fixed income or something, we should have a set of, auto painters tools. We can help them get the free paint from Solid Waste Authority, and just a team of 10 volunteers can paint a house really quickly, and this has huge potential with long-standing benefit. And I think we are lucky to have a number of groups in town that are kind of poised to carry this out for us. And similarly, I wanted to point out, although this is really in its infancy, but I've been working with my friend Jeff Koons for years now, and one of the things that will be proposed, especially with a big focus on the lagoon, is let's say a coalition of sorts or a group of municipalities who are around the Lake Worth Lagoon to kind of get together and almost in the same way of within our own community, but within the bigger community of the watershed, to do kind of the same thing with a heavy emphasis on our boat problem, if you will, on Snook Islands and whatnot. So I do have some meetings coming up on that, and I think we're getting closer to getting a good answer to get things like managed mooring fields and enforcement plans, and everything works together. Nobody wants to see derelict boats sunken, off our properties. Nobody wants to see garbage floating around and going through our storm drains. And I think you're absolutely right on that. The only way we're going to address it in any meaningful way is if it's a large scale coordinated effort.
With a lot of publicity.
They just encourage
Right.
people to come out. Yeah.
All right.
Well, apparently the counties realize that these boats are now affecting Snook Islands. So now they're interested.
Yes.
Kim?
Yes, I just,
Yeah.
when Commissioner Diaz had mentioned the house painting, it reminded me of the Palm Beach State College when they came to present to us. I think they came up to us. I don't know if it was like, I don't know if the people watching Zoom could hear, but they have a painting program and they're excited to partner and have some of their students and some people from the college join in. So
Oh, I certainly noted that, Commissioner.
as a great community partner.
Absolutely.
And I agree with like the publicity, but mostly, and also I think just to piggyback off of what Vice Mayor's been saying, it's also about the education piece. And like, the last thing I want to do is have it feel like code is now, we're sending them out to target another issue. So I think code should be kind of like the last resort when we're looking at this, or I want to, as part of this plan, Carmen, hopefully we can dig into, I'd like to see it before it hits like an agenda item so that we can all help identify areas that we like or want to strengthen or want to improve. Because usually we put something out there for us to react to.
Yes.
And the public thinks this is what's going to happen. And then it can cause that cycle of alarm and rumors and concern. So hopefully we can start working through some of the details. But I agree, if we start with the overall mission, that should be something everybody can agree on. But I think the education piece of like, this, I think we've talked about it before. This is the month where we're focusing on anti-littering, and so if you have a garbage can that's always overflowing in the back of your complex, like we're probably gonna, so maybe get out ahead of that before we have to come and address it. So just
I came down briefly to the cleanup, on Saturday that Sarah and her church and everything, the people did. And it's really amazing just the amount of crap, little cigarette butts and cellophane and that kind of stuff. And that all does wash into the water at the end. But you know what was discouraging? The people from the community weren't there. It was the church people. It was a few different groups, a couple random, citizens, and nobody from the community was there. And I how much do we have to do for the people that, if they're not willing to do it for themselves? So I agree with you, Kim, that, if we're going to do this, we've got to do it in a big way and that's why I go back to take pride in your community. When I was a kid, you would just throw, stuff out of your window in New York City. Trash would just go down the streets of New York City, and then don't give a hoot, don't pollute came, and it changed dramatically the look of the city. So that's, education is absolutely part of it, but and again, as long as it's part of a large positive movement towards the city and not a punitive thing, but let's all get in this together and have pride in our city and improve the way we treat our city. I think that it's we've got a successful thing going on there.
Right, and education was the core of the program.
And part of education, don't throw crap on the sidewalk. Doesn't take, it's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science, but it's a hard thing to educate. I can tell you. Like everything's connected. A lot of people, I see a lot of the complaints about, coming after people who put out landscaping waste too early for a couple of days, and there's really good reasons for that. That all causes such huge infrastructure problems, and there's so much room for education. And I think, it's really, as a small nonprofit, I definitely hear you on that, Mayor, about getting volunteers out, because I've had maintenance days on our Living Shoreline project. So I've had 20-30 people show up, and then I've had ones where it's like me and 2 other people. So it's a struggle, but I think as a municipality, and all municipalities are poised to get the message out more effectively. And also, not just State College, but high school students are required to have a lot of hours. So I think
maybe we could reach out to the high school for like a Beautify Lake Worth Club, to those kids really, and I spend a lot of time with a little bit interacting with those kids, and they want stuff to do. They do. The kids, once you get it, then it's okay and it's fun and it's cool and other people are doing it. It becomes like the band is all of a sudden this cool thing to be in, where 6 years ago there were 9 kids. So.
And they work hard. They
work hard.
When I take out high school groups, they always pull out the most litter. Recently, I had a high school group literally rebuild our mangrove nursery in Jewel Cove. They work super hard, and they need the volunteer hours. And I think that's one of the better things of our education right now.
Right. Well, they're young.
I don't know whether I can't figure
Chris?
out how to turn my microphone and video off. I've been beating on it here, but I apologize that it's off. I emphasize again, I think we can easily come up with individual pieces of it. Like, I think it's excellent to work with the high school students. A club idea sounds good. There are various different individual pieces, but the overall, make sure that the community knows that we've started this program. Here's some of our objectives. Here's why we're doing it. It has a benefit to the lagoon. It has a benefit to our own quality of life. It's just a good thing to do, et cetera. Make sure that that overall umbrella and education and informational part is there, and then fit the individual pieces into it and show why they relate. I think that's, I can't emphasize enough
Well, I
that
think it has
that's
to
important.
be, if we're gonna do this and get it organized, it has to be a big it has to be a big deal. It
Yeah,
has to be a big
exactly.
announcement. Yeah,
Yep.
you know, and I always I feel always a little protective of staff in terms of, you know, we ask them to do things and they're doing their job, and how much else can we ask them to do? This might be a thing that, you know, Mr. McBoy, maybe you could come up with some idea, you know, not sunshine stuff, but maybe each one of us could say, hey, well, what to give to the city manager, to give staff little guidance as to what, you know, what we're looking for.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Ronaldo, I see your hands up.
Yeah, just one last thing. It's semi pressing, maybe. And we had a great presentation from William about the Live Local Act and how we're set. And I just want to point out, I think today North Palm Beach is entertaining a ordinance on setbacks in order to prepare. And I don't even know what the ask is right now, but I think, you know, if I'm sure William's on it, but to look at what we can do or what we need to do in terms of like setbacks and protecting ourselves from the implications of when Live Local comes online, if you will.
Yeah, that Live Local thing, there's another webinar about Greg Weiss had a webinar a couple weeks ago about it. And they just, I don't know if you all got it or not, but there was a PowerPoint that came out about that Live Local thing. I can share it with y'all. Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, I've listened to like at least 3 presentations at different meetings, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Yeah,
Right. And its complexity in terms of land use, like it's a little bit scary.
well,
So
we can have residential now in industrial areas.
I think
Chris?
I think the main thing is the point that Commissioner Diaz is making, is that if we still have a window, which I don't know, but I'm assuming we still have a little bit of a window, if there are any ordinances that we need to put in place that would give us some additional protection to have the city go in the directions that we as a community feel are important, let's get on that as quickly as possible to get them in place. I know that
July 1st is when everything goes into
well, we may have missed that boat. William assured us that we have more protections than a number of other communities. I think he's been quite proactive, even not knowing this legislation was coming. But if there is anything, let's not miss an opportunity if we can.
Yeah, again, people smarter than us are still scratching their heads over the implications of this. It's really, yeah, it's a mystery. It's a bit of a mystery. So, okay, it is now 9:58. Does anybody have any 1-minute thing they'd like to talk about?
Madam Mayor, I just want to remind you
Sure.
all of the appreciation luncheon for Public Works and
11
Leisure
o'clock.
Services staff, 11 o'clock at the casino.
Mhm.
They would love to see you all there.
Planning on being there. Okay, so other than that, our next meeting is, oh, right, we're not having a meeting on they're having, well, I
June
guess we'll see you
20th.
all on the 4th of July.
June 20th
June
June
20th.
20th.
is our next commission meeting.
Oh, then I'll be here. Oh, and I won't be here. That's right. Okay. So I'll see you all on July 4th, I guess. Yeah.
have fun in
July
Germany.
18th.
It's gonna be a great trip.
July 18th. Is
Yeah.
that-
Going to visit the where my people come from, a tiny little island in the North Sea, which
Awesome.
which accounts for the fact they have no sense of humor and wear a lot of black. Yeah, I'll see like, the South American, dancing the big skirts and dancing, and the Germans are, it's a black outfit with a little bit of white, and then there's some silver, and that's kind of crazy. So we'll see. Have a good week, everybody, and I will see you on the 4th.
Oh, yes.
Let's pray for good weather and no political craziness. All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn? Do we need a motion?
We don't
to
need
adjourn?
one. Thank you. We're adjourned.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, have a
Bye.
good
Have a good
day.
meet, have a good
Take
weekend,
care.
everyone.
Yeah, everything.